So a few weeks ago, I adopted a stray puppy. His name is Bakul. He's going to grow to be about 50 kilos. He's wonderful. But when I was taking him to the vet for a checkup, I bumped into a lady called Sam from the UK. I heard the British accent and was like, ooh, I'm curious. But she was there with a dog that she had found with her husband on the streets in Barat. And they were desperately trying to find a home for this dog. They didn't want to put her back on the streets. They wanted her to be vaccinated and everything. I detected a bit of frustration from her about the challenges in being able to find a space for this dog, trying to find a home for her, someone to adopt her, or even to foster her while she found a new home or had treatments such as neutering and vaccinations. Now, Sam is actually going to take this dog back to the UK with her, which is great news, but I wanted to get her on the show today to talk about her experience. But I'm also joined by a friend of mine, Neda Jahangari, who is a returned Peace Corps volunteer. And along with her husband, they served in Tripoya, and Tripoya got them. And you keep going back and contributing to the community. You have even become an honorary citizen of Tripoya. She also founded the first Glow Club in the city, which is where girls aged between 14 and 18 gather weekly to develop leadership and teamwork skills. But we're here to talk about dogs. She is also involved in projects to take dogs off the street, to neuter them, to vaccinate them, and to try and find them homes. So I've decided to bring these two guests together, along with Phoebe here, who is up for adoption, to find out a bit more about the situation in Albania when it comes to street dogs. Neda, Sam, welcome to Inside Albania.
Thank you.
And Phoebe, sorry.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Sam, I want to go to you first. So we met in the vets, and it was quite a distressing situation because you were leaving Albania the next day and you'd found this gorgeous dog and you wanted to find her a home, but it was very difficult to find a solution to the problem. But let's start at the beginning. What was your impression of the situation with stray dogs during your time in Albania? She probably wasn't the first stray that you'd seen.
No, there is obviously quite a problem with stray dogs. I didn't find them aggressive at all. They weren't really bothering people. Some of them looked in quite good condition. Some of them obviously had got the odd health problem. But yeah, there is a problem with street dogs in Albania. Yeah.
And how did you come across your dog, your new dog? Tell me the story of how you found her.
We were returning from a night out, just an evening, about 10 o'clock, and she was on the doorstep of our hotel where we were staying. She was just curled up in a ball. I don't know whether she was actually a street dog. She'd obviously got a problem with her front paws. Her front paws were very bent, so we knew that something had happened to her front paws, whether she'd been born like that or whether she'd had an accident. So we just had to leave her on the street for that evening because obviously we had nowhere to put her. And then when we came down the next morning, bless her, she was trying to get into the hotel lobby and she was just causing a bit of a problem, keep coming into the lobby for the hotel staff. So, yeah, that's how we found her. And
you transported her then to the vet hospital in Tirana, which is where I met you. And from what I understood, you were trying to figure out what to do with her, you know, whether they would vaccinate her, whether they'd be able to rehome her. What sort of happened with the vets there?
So I was put in contact with a lady who advised me to go to the vets. We went to the vets and just to see what was the matter with her front paws. We wanted to get a bit of a diagnosis on that. The vets told us that she looked like she'd probably had some kind of impact accident to her front paws at some point. They said she was only roughly around about 5 months old. So we then didn't know what to do with her because the lady who I'd contacted then basically said to me, I've got no room for her. And a friend hadn't got any room for her. So we were just in a bit of a situation where the only option that we would have had is to have just put her back on the street. And there was no way I was putting that puppy back out on the street. Yeah. So I was just a bit fraught and we were very upset because I didn't know, our hands were tied. There's no real rescue centres. There was no one that I felt that could really help us. So through our contacts and through yourself, very kindly, he took the picture and put it on social media. I managed to contact another lady who was actually based in the UK, who was Polish, and she put me in contact with somebody else, and they found this home for her. So we've just paid for her to stay there for 3 weeks until she's able to come out of Albania.
And are you going to adopt her in the UK? Is she coming to live with you?
And we're not 100% sure at the moment. She's going to go via Poland. We're going to pay for her to go into Poland, and then possibly try to get her fostered in Poland, and then possibly to have her operation in Poland, and then we will consider bringing her over to the UK.
It was really hard. You know, I saw you that day and you guys were upset, and I knew, you know, how hard it was going to be to find a home for her, because we've been through this as well.
Yes.
And I was there with my puppy, whose sister I was trying to rehome, because we rescued them off the streets as well. And I rang maybe 3 or 4 sort of shelters or organisations which help, and all of them were like, we are at capacity. And not only that, but we have less money than we did last year. The volunteers have left, you know, they're really, really struggling. And we were also told by the vets as well, you know, there are some sort of state facilities, or even keeping her at the vets, it's not advised, because there are diseases like parvovirus, there are other diseases, you know, that they can be exposed to. And it's a really difficult situation. And I've been on Facebook groups and things where I've seen tourists saying, you know, Albania is wonderful, it's so nice, lovely people, etc. But the stray dog situation, it breaks my heart. I don't know what to do. I found this cute street dog. I've been feeding her, but now I have to go home. Is there any state services? But I've even seen people saying, you know, the way that they're treating dogs, it's terrible. I'm not going to go back to the country. And even people saying, reading those comments, go, well, Albania's off my list now. And I know it's not a priority for Albanian people because, you know, there are problems with poverty and things here, but this is a sign of something bigger. I think it's putting people off, but it's also dangerous as well, because I mean the dogs that you saw are friendly, they're socialized, you know, in touristic areas they tend to be, but if you go into some areas, I remember when we were in Tripolia recently, you said if you see a dog in the mountains, stay still, don't make eye contact with it. You know, you were instructing me how to behave because they're not all cuddly like your lovely dog. Was it Spotty you called her?
Spotty, we called her. We called her Spotty just because when we took her to the vets, they only said, you've got to give her a name. So my husband just basically said, just call her Spotty.
Yeah.
So
I mean, she's spotty, so it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
What was your impression of Albania, sort of aside from this issue, which was a bit challenging?
It's stunning. We were meant to do, we only stayed in Barat. So we were meant to do 2 nights in Barat, and then we were meant to move on to Durrës for 2 nights. We didn't move on to Durrës for 2 nights because of the issue with the dog. And in all honesty, I was quite emotionally stressed over it, that I didn't want to go to Durrës. I kind of got used to the issues and the street dogs that we saw in Barat, that I didn't necessarily then want to go and see any more cases or anything else in Durrës, to be honest. So we only stayed in Barat, but I thought Barat was, I mean, I would not say to anybody, don't go.
Yeah.
I would definitely say to people, you know, definitely go and visit. It's a beautiful place. And in Barat, like I said, I didn't find the street dogs, like I didn't go near them. We fed them, like I always do, wherever we travel, if the street dogs. But the buildings are beautiful, you know. Barat's just a stunning place, you know. The mountain views and everything on the drive from Tirana to Barat is beautiful. So I would never say to anybody, don't go. But if you are very much of a dog lover, you probably will see some cases that you're not going to be very happy about. But that's not necessarily just happening in Albania, is it? It can be all over the world. So.
Yes, even in the UK as well. You know, but thank you for what you did. You know, it's one dog, but that's one dog less, which is not roaming around the streets anymore. So thank you for what you've done. You stay online because we're going to talk now about still on the same topic of street dogs.
Yeah.
Neda,
yes.
You are with Phoebe. Can I cuddle her for a minute, please?
Can.
Now, actually, this doggy, when I rescued our 2 puppies from the street a couple of weeks ago, we tried to catch Phoebe as well, but she was too fast and she didn't want to come home with us. And so we ended up, we were planning to take 3, but we only went home with 2. So it's kind of fate that we're meeting again.
Yes.
But I can't adopt you. I'm so sorry. Oh, no, don't look at me like that. Okay, we'll talk about it later. Okay. So, Neda, you have been coming to Albania for a very long time. You do amazing work in Tropoja that we've covered in other episodes of my show. But we're here today to talk about the situation with dogs. There are so many stray dogs in Tropoja.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's a bit different. You know, there are lots in Tirana, there's lots in Durrës, but people are a bit more accustomed to them. They're also a bit more accustomed to people. There are more programs for neutering and things. They get fed by more people. You know, there's crowds of people I see at the lake sort of leaving out food for them and things. But I don't think this is quite the same situation in Tropoja. How bad is the situation there with strays?
Back in 2019, when my husband and I were assigned to go to Tropoja, Baramsuri, to serve, there was a lot of stray dogs. The situation was so bad. They were hungry. They were not healthy. They were moving around in 15 dog packs, and the people were not comfortable walking in the street even at night because the dogs would be out scavenging for food. I had to hold myself back because I have so much love for these animals, and I was also a volunteer at the rescue in California, German Shepherd Rescue of Orange County, where I got trained to train them to become adoptable. I tried to feed some of the dogs that were hungry and help some of the ones that were hurt, the puppies. But the situation is so bad, and I just had to face the fact that I could not help them then. I would have to come back. And 6 years later, with the help of the volunteers in the city and, of course, Strays of Tropoja, Eva Shamai, and I'm Strays of Albania, where I did the advocacy for the dog since 2019. That is where we finally decided to launch our Safe Paws, a project initiative that we've been working on and wanting to do. And this was the time, October 25th, we launched it. And with the help of ProVet, husband and wife team that were very experienced with spay and neuter and vaccination of the dogs, we finished with 29 vaccinations and 24 sterilization. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very happy that we finally were able to. Yeah.
Because I think the mentality here for a long time, especially from municipalities, the way of dealing with the situation, they have poisoned animals, which, okay, it might literally stop the problem dead in some ways. But if people are continuing to put dogs onto the street, the situation continues. It continues to get worse. So your approach is to take the dogs, to sterilize them, to prevent them from reproducing, to vaccinate them, to prevent communicable diseases, to give them other, to give them other forms of treatment if they have other health issues, and then to try and find a home for them. So this is a way of stopping the problem from getting worse, while also trying to fix it in the short term by finding them homes, correct? And this is a novel approach somewhat for Albania, whereas before the idea was, just poison them.
Yeah. I don't know if they know really what to do with the situation. Maybe if they can get outside help, outside guidance, we can educate the community, go with the youth. And what I did during my school year, I was a health education teacher at a 9-year school. I was teaching them dog safety, dog bite safety, how to treat an animal, stray animal that you see in the street, things like that. And it did help. The kids to this day are very excited and happy that I taught them that, because they face this situation almost every day. And with the spay and neuter campaign, they were stopping me in the street. Is this your dog with the yellow tag? Is this your dog that you helped? And I said, yes. And you need to, here's a bag of food. If you can, please keep him give them
Yes.
food and take care of them. You don't have to touch them, just feed them so they don't starve and they don't, go around scavenging food from trash cans and,
Now, I want to talk about stigma. So when we rescued our 2 puppies and we put one up for adoption, I said, we found her on the street. She's a street dog. And my partner said, you'll never get anyone to adopt her if you say she's a street dog. And I was like, but that's like a selling point. We took her from the street. We've rescued her. Adopting her, it's doing a good thing, etc. He was like, no, people won't want a street dog. There is a bit of stigma about this. Can you tell me, and I don't mean just in Tripoia, I mean in the broader Albanian sense, can you explain a bit about why there is a stigma about sort of pet ownership, dog ownership, but also the street dogs in particular?
In general, all over the world, I believe, even, Albania, countries in the Balkan, dogs are not a family member. They are a working dog. They are, their job is to protect the property and the livestock. They live with the livestock. They eat with the livestock. And the owner only gives them shelter and food. When they are done with them, this is a given all over the world. And I've traveled and I've seen South America, North America, even in United States, the conditions are not so good. So when they turn 13, 14 years old and they're not capable of doing the job that they used to do, the farmers just let them go. So what happens, these dogs in our region end up in the city because they're looking for food. But also they have diseases, they may be dirty, and the culture, people in the city, they do not want to associate with the dog because it's coming from the mountains or it's coming from street or it's coming from the farms. They think they're dirty.
Yeah.
So, and again, if they want to bring him up to their apartments, there's family of 2, sometimes 3 living in apartments. So they cannot even bring the dog to their homes. So what they do, I do see that in a positive point, they do feed them in the street.
Okay.
I go to grab the dog. I say, do you want your dog sterilized? And they say, oh, that's my dog. And I said, well, why is it in the street? And they say, well, it's my dog, but it lives in the street. I feed it. I said, okay. And then they were very open to me taking the dog and sterilizing and vaccinating the dogs. So it's a great point.
Yes.
It's the first step, baby steps.
And yeah, like a dog, if you take it from the street, yes, it will need a shower. It will need to be treated for parasites, for worms. It will need vaccination, etc. But that doesn't mean it's dirty forever. It doesn't mean you're going to get sick from it. It doesn't mean your kid's going to get sick for it. I hear people say, oh, no, I can't have it around my child. But actually, my daughter, her responsibility every day is to brush the dog, to make sure he's got water, to feed the cats. You can teach kids a lot of valuable life lessons from them being around a pet as well.
And the connection that they build between each other is priceless.
Another argument I hear, and I had it after I posted the video of the 2 puppies, and they were like, oh, you come here and you're caring about dogs, but what about people? There's people suffering and you care about dogs. It's like, well, the 2 aren't mutually exclusive. I can care about, what are you doing for either apart from whinging on the internet, But I get this a lot. Albania has a lot of problems with poverty, especially outside of the country. There are people living in terrible conditions. We can't escape this fact. So what do you say to people who say, yeah, well, we should be focusing on humans first?
Well, that's what it took us 6 years to come to this point, to be able to help the voiceless animals. We tried every year to do this campaign, but the people were in more need, the children, the schools, the playgrounds, the hospitals, the clinics. So that's what we did throughout the 6 years, help the fire department, get them a fire truck. So there's a lot of projects that we initiated and did in the local community that they're very happy. And now that I'm doing this with the animals, they're thanking me actually in the street, and they're saying, thank you. Finally, somebody is taking care of these animals that are homeless and doing something about them. The question is, what are you going to do afterwards? Well, for now, it's catch and release. Once the Bashkia, with their support, or the municipality, if they give us a land or a building, abandoned building that we can have for these animals, then we will start collecting them and keeping them, make sure they're fed and put them on social media and have them get adopted.
Because if you keep catching, neutering, releasing, of course, people are still going to dump them. If their dog has 6 puppies, they're still going to, but you can drastically reduce the number. I mean, it's not... Also, I think what I said to these people who were criticizing me, I was like, but do you understand that stray dogs and the animal welfare is a social issue? Like, it is, if you have stray dogs on the street that are not vaccinated, it can be a health issue. If you're poisoning them, it's a public health issue. If they're dangerous, that is a public safety issue. By addressing the issues with animals on the streets and the towns of the country, this is going to solve a public issue, and it will also stop upsetting tourists who, after all, the country is pinning a lot of hopes on in terms of income and revenue as well. So,
absolutely.
What would you say to Albanian people about who might be considering getting a dog? Maybe they're looking at buying a fancy breed or something. What would you say to them?
Absolutely. I said adopt. Don't buy. There's many strays out there. And, you know, with the vaccination and deworming, they're going to be just fine. They will be the best friend, and they will be devoted and give you comfort.
Yeah.
So don't buy, adopt. Yes.
And Sam, are you still there?
Yes.
You've had a listen to our conversation there. Is there any message that you would like to pass on to people who might be thinking about adopting a dog, or who have hesitations or anything like that?
Oh, definitely adopt a dog. And, you know, it has to start from somewhere. And I think even if you help one dog, it's like you said, it's better than not helping at all. It's all right to just turn a blind eye and just think, oh, well, someone else will do it. You know, you can help dogs.
Yes.
So, like you say, they don't have a voice. So,
they don't.
You know,
they don't have a
voice.
Yes.
Neda, if people want to support you and the work that you're doing, these projects with vaccine, because you told me it costs €100 equivalent to vaccinate, to neuter, to treat a street animal. If people want to support you with this, how can they do it? And if people want to adopt a dog, they can contact you through social media, I think.
Correct.
Well?
Strays of Albania and Strays of Tropoia both has our PayPal link, and you will post the dogs that are adoptable, and you can just go on there and follow us. You get updated almost every day with our strays in the north, our mountain dogs, our farm dogs. They also need to be adopted.
Yes.
Right now, our oldest is 14 years old. She was a female, and we're keeping her in a barn at a home. And thanks again I wanted to thank all the volunteers that helped us that day to catch and release these dogs and take care of them for the 3 days after their sterilization. Eva, Shimai, and Strays of Tropoia, all the volunteers, Girls Leading Our World, my Glow Girls also were there registering the dogs and making sure they're all in good health before they're released. And of course, the community, they're very supportive. I find that they may change their mentality and say, hey, okay, let's help you. Let's take care of this situation of the strays and take it under control. Each female can have up to 12 puppies. Imagine each female of that puppy can have 12 more puppies. It's a very, very bad, bad situation.
Now, my whole life, we've only ever adopted or rescued dogs and cats, and I'm going to need a bigger house at this rate.
Yes.
But yeah, in my experience, I've never had a bad experience. I've never caught any disease. I've never been bitten by any of them, and I would never buy a dog because the love that you get from, this one, she's basically moved in now.
You need to move to Tropoia and get a villa there and have all your animals that you want.
Neda, Sam, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Thank you.